It's officially 11, so we can kick off. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to this webinar where we will be concluding the Civil Collaboration Series, Part 5. It's going to be a really content-packed type of webinar, and we are going to be looking at animation as well as visualization. And yeah, it's presented by myself, Shuaib Yunus. So in a nutshell, this is what the Civil Collaboration webinar series entailed. Of course, I am your host, Shuaib Yunus. I am the BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure and mining here at Baker Baines, as well as a civil professional. And I had come together and put together a 5-part webinar series looking at collaboration. We always hear in industry that the biggest problem is working amongst consortiums and sharing data, modeling, those type of things. And I thought, hey, why not put together a really cool webinar series where it will look at these exact problems. It was primarily focused at collaboration, but there were definitely some modeling aspects that I did show you guys, and I have received great feedback on that. And today, this webinar is going to top them all. In terms of the software that we've touched on in the series, you can see it is quite a stack. Civil 3D, Advanced Steel, Map 3D, 3ds Max, which is today, Revit, Infraworks, Navisworks today, Inventor. I mean, we've got all of the hero products as well as some of those that you might have not used before, but you have seen the impact that they make on the AEC industry. So for today's session, of course, 2021, new year. So we're going to give you a quick intro on who we are as Baker Baines, and then we're going to dive straight into the topic at hand and wrap up this awesome series. We're going to be looking at bringing your detailed models from Civil 3D into Infraworks to give a conceptual feel. We're then going to take the line markings that were created in our previous webinars using vehicle tracking and import them into Infraworks so you could actually see them quite cool. We're going to incorporate a Formit, which is something out of the box that not a lot of people are using, but it's such an easy tool, and you're going to be seeing that today. And then a little bit from my AU session, I brought in the Panoramic VR. So if you have your phone close by, great, you're going to be able to see my model on your phone. Keep that QR code if you'd like. And if you have a headset like a Samsung or whichever one you use, you could actually pop your phone in there and have a look at my model. So stay tuned right till the end. And of course, the thing that always gets people excited is animation. And we're going to look at how you could use 3ds Max to actually animate cars along a roadway. And then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so a little bit about us, Baker Baines. This is us in a snapshot. As you can see, we are affiliated with a lot of brands, a lot of partners, CAD Learning being a really big one, IDAS for civil infrastructure. We are an Autodesk Service Provider Select partner, which is really good. It shows that we have the professionals in-house to actually render services to a high quality that can be expected. And then, of course, we are listed on the Autodesk Services Marketplace provider. In terms of the brands that we back or we support, Autodesk, of course, you should know Autodesk by now. I don't need to give them an introduction. In terms of the 3D laser scanning space, which I also play a lot in, we've got the Leica BLK360 used for interior scannings, predominantly used by architects, but it's such a great and impactful tool for as-built capture and modeling. If you are going more on the civil part of things for construction, we've got the Topcon, that is the GTL 1000 that you see there. You've also got the GLS 2000, which is a 3D scanner, really, really good and powerful. And it goes up to the top range of a 500 meter range, which is quite a long range. IDAS, I have done this in my previous webinar series looking at stormwater design. Really, really amazing tool for civil infrastructure professionals in conjunction with Civil 3D. It gives you that much more power to actually streamline your civil designs. And last but definitely not least, CAD Learning. CAD Learning plays a vital role if you are a designer that wants to upskill yourself, polish your resume, and make you that much better. It has all of the, or most of the Autodesk products on there. So Civil 3D, Infraworks, 3ds Max, Inventor, AutoCAD, all of your hero products are on there and many more. They are pre-recorded videos, step-by-step classroom lessons, as well as exercise files that you could actually test, use, and practice in conjunction with what you're seeing. So very, very good. If you haven't seen it, please head down to our website or drop me a message. I can definitely send you the link, and you could download a trial for 30 days and give it a shot. The segments that we normally play in, of course, build anything vertical, so vertical construction, civil infrastructure and mining, civils being roads, stormwater, grading, sites. It's quite a large spread, of course, closely related to mining, energy, and then, of course, manufacturing. And the last slide about us is we actually bring this together with our I adopt methodology, where we assess your current needs, we educate you where we can, and we consult with you if it's above your depth. All right, so now we have jumped into the main topic of the series, okay? Yeah, this was quite a journey, and you're going to see towards the end, I mean, the size of the model. It's not a typical model you would see in any webinar. It is a comprehensive model, I promise you. And yeah, I will be looking forward to your feedback at the end. So let's keep it going and let's jump in there. So this is where we started. I mean, any civil professional, you know that you are given a project brief and you have to design accordingly. We were given a park, an office park that we needed to develop in Hartbeespoort Dam here in South Africa. And we had to put in roads, roundabouts, intersections, buildings, landscape, make it look as good as possible. And we started from zero. And what I mean by zero is if you look at this image here, that is all we were given. And this was rendered in Infraworks, which is amazing. And we built up from here. And today, part 5 is going to show you where we have arrived, right? So whatever software you've seen throughout the series, it's going to give you the capabilities to reach where I have reached today. So let's start off with the easy one, being Formit. So we want to incorporate objects created in Autodesk Formit to your Infraworks model. Now, this is a really amazing tool and very simple tool where you want to convey your design intent and you want to use quite a reasonable amount of detail. So let's have a look. So this was our model, right? And what I've done is I'm going to export the 3D model as an FBX file. I didn't have to use the entire model there, but I did, and I just exported that. Okay, so as you can see, depending on the size of your model, this can take a few minutes. All right. So if you have a huge model and it's not as quick as mine, then you know that your model is quite big. Now this is Formit, right? So if you haven't seen this before, this is how it looks. It's a very, very basic tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to import from that Infraworks file, that FBX. Here we go. And we're going to open it. Now, once you import it and you don't see anything, don't stress, just move around a little bit and here we go. I really like the way it looks in Formit. It looks so cool. I mean, just look at that. It looks amazing. It's got such like a funky vibe to it. But what we can do here now is I'm going to put in, let's say, a guardhouse for our office park at this region there. Along that median, that nice grass patch there, we're going to have a guardhouse. So what we can do is, if you don't know, you should know this as a civil designer, but I'm going to show you what you can do. First of all, you need to check your units. So I'm going to be working here in millimeters, all right? And I'm going to measure that distance that I need so that the guardhouse fits in perfectly. So there is a measure tool here. By the way, this app is quite nice if you've got it on like a tablet or something like that. So as you can see, it gives you the measurements, but that's not going to be the extent of my model. It's going to need to go across from edge to edge. So what I would do is, I'm just fighting with the mouse here a little bit. Let's give that a shot again. And I will click there and I will get my measurement, right? Of course, you will have a much more accurate one if you know the lane widths and the median widths and all of those type of things. But this is just to show you a foolproof way of in case you figured that or forgot that. Okay, so now that we've measured it, I've unloaded that model because I don't really need it. Unless you wanted to design on the model, by all means you can. I just wanted to keep it clean so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I've used a normal shape, drag and drop. I've added my dimensions here and I'm happy with that. And I'm gonna drop it on the grid somewhere. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exact positioning, all right? If you're doing it on the model, it's going to fit in exactly where you want to. But as you can see, I have created a column. So I'm going to move it on the about there. That's fine. Okay. If you want, most people put it on the origin, so 0 to 0, 0. So you can do that if you'd like. And that is my column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. Well, as you can see, you can actually check the height if it's not correct. Okay, and what I'll do is I'm going to highlight that. Okay, and I'm going to use the tool to array it. Okay, so on the vertex, so here we are. I'm going to use a linear array and I'm just going to make one copy. So I will click there. Okay, so I can type in a distance if I want to, or I can move to that distance if I know what I'm looking at. So in this case, I'm going just around 11 meters. Okay. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to select the second column and I am also going to array it. So you can use copy, you can use array. The functions from AutoCAD translate here pretty nicely. And it's like you can see, it's a very visual tool. So you can see if you're doing something incorrectly. So I will type in my width dimension. So I'm fine with that. And I've got my 4 columns in. All right. Now, what do we need next? So I can use line, I can use a rectangle, square, I can draw it on a vertex. Okay, so what I will do is I am going to snap this to corner and I will make this about, let's see, if we can either type in a dimension. So let's go 4,000, so 4 meters. All right, I can select that. Now, what I am doing here is I'm showing you how you could actually use it as a first time user, right? So I will select this here, right? You can see there's different grips at different positions. Let's just maybe rotate it a little bit. And we could actually grip it on that vertex. We can use a midpoint, we can use a work plane if needed. And if we go to the tools again, I am going to move this maybe somewhere towards the center. Okay, probably doesn't make sense at the moment, but you're going to see what I'm doing, right? So I want it at that spacing. Key thing with any modeling, you need to know what you're modeling first before you touch anything. So I know what I'm modeling. I'm going to extrude this up to a height that I want. Okay, here we are. So we've got the columns and we've actually got the center of the guardhouse. Okay. So what I also want to input here is the actual roof. Okay, so again, I can go and measure just to make sure if it's the correct height and it's correct according to what I want to design. You can see here as well. So the reason why I show this is depending on your angle or your view, sometimes you might think it's actually modeled in an angle. Meanwhile, it's actually straight. So just a tip there. I thought I'll give you guys a good tip. Okay, so we've navigated to the top view. I am going to go here and I'm going to use a square again. All right, so I'm going to use the vertex on the top, the vertex on that corner, and you can see I can actually type in a distance, and if I move, you can see it's actually in the correct plane. All right, so that's all I wanted to show you. Depending on the view that you're working, it will actually stick to that plane, which is quite nice. So use your views, use your same AutoCAD background, or whichever drafting software. If you're still confused, snap to the floor like what I'm doing here, put in your dimensions. So we're going to type in our dimensions, and here we are. And then of course we can actually just move this to wherever we want to. Before that, I'm just going to click on the middle, and as you can see, we can extrude it to whatever length we want. I've got that, and you can see here I'm drawing a crossed line. So using the line command, I'm going from corner to corner, and I'm going to show you something really cool now. So if I click on the center of this, it has intelligence in the software to actually create a slope. So this is going to be the roof on the top, right? And yeah, that looks quite all right. So I'm going to take that as it is. We're going to highlight it, and we're going to move it to where we need it to. And that is that top corner right there. And look at that. I mean, we started off with some weird shapes, predominantly using the square or rectangular tool. And this is currently what we have. I'm happy with this. It's something basic. It'll work, right? We can add some more details in here where I could add a door. So that's exactly what I'm doing. As you can see, it's snapping to the reference plane, which is also really handy. So you don't have to worry about it. It's quite intelligent. I can either click anywhere I'd like, or I could type in a dimension, which I'm going to do. And we've got a door. If I wanted to make it wider, I can just drag it. So let's make it a 2-meter door or entrance. And that is the result. Okay, and if I wanted to measure it, you can see I can always check. So I'm using this just to show you that we can actually keep checking our stuff as we're using it, especially if you're using this software for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to just up that up a little bit. That looks a bit decent. And we can either add another door on the side, and we can also add some windows. So let's go and add some windows, all right? So let me just get a nice view here. And again, I'm going to use the square shape, really handy in this portion of things. I'm going to snap to the face of the centroid. And if I drag my cursor, you can see it actually fits or sticks with that line, right? So we're going to move it this way, and I'm going to make some windows here. So let's make it like that. Again, don't judge my architectural skills or design. I'm not an architect, but I'm showing you that you can actually model something to give some visualization perspective. As you can see, that is the measurement from the end of the wall. I can always adjust that later if I want to. Now, if we measure it, you can see it's giving me 361 at the moment. I'm going to change this to 500 and see what happens, right? Now, sometimes people make that mistake where it shifts the entire wall. That's not the correct way to actually do it, right? So how you would do it? Let's go back here and measure. I will click on that edge there, all right? So first we will click on there, select the second edge, and then it will go into that. So if you get it wrong the first time, just switch the order and then your shape will actually switch or shift. I'm going to use the array command here again, and I will use that center. And as I drag it to the left, you can see I have created my windows. That looks about okay. So I will just probably click there. Again, you can go and adjust this as you'd like, and we can take it from there as we want to. In terms of the windows, if you wanted to add a more in-depth look to it, as you can see, I can also put like a cut in on the edge. So I'm going to offset it inwards so it looks much more better. So let's use maybe 150. Yeah, 150 looks a bit decent. So we can use that. And you can see we've got the walls with the window and the door. We can actually assign the offset to the door if we'd like to. And yeah, we're going to do the same thing on this side. So if you missed it the first time, let's just grab this quickly. Again, use the centroid, go along the line of action of that, type in our dimensions as we need it. So it's 1 by 1 meter, right? So let's just type that in. So the reason why I'm focusing on this just a few minutes longer is it's a new tool, or it's a new tool to many people. It's been there for a really long time, but not a lot of people have utilized it. And now that you can actually bring it into Infraworks, I mean, you can actually do a lot more realistic designs with this. And you can also take it into Revit and so on. So you're not really wasting your time on this. You could actually take it in for further detailing, which is amazing. So here we are, we use the array tool again. All right, we're gonna create, if I hit, I'm gonna multi-select them, and I am then just gonna offset them inwards. You can see currently it's outwards, so please just check your angle or your perspective view. So that looks better, 150, pretty good. And here we are. Right, so we've got the windows in on either side. We've got the door in. I'm probably just gonna, should I put in the door? Okay, let's drop it in. I want to do it halfway. So let's just drop in the door quickly. Okay, same story. Add in the dimensions. We're going to shift this by meter to the right. Here we go. That looks good. And we are good to go. All right, so this is what we've generated in really few minutes, and it looks pretty decent, and we can actually use it in our Infraworks design. So if you don't want to take this gray shell in there, we can assign materials pretty quickly by using the drag and drop options. So if we go to the window and we switch on the materials tab, now we can actually assign render materials to the actual objects that we've created, okay? So there's different material libraries that you would have, and there are samples that are built in here. There's quite a lot that you can use out of the box, and everything I've done in the series is literally out of the box. So let's go and have a look at what we can actually assign to our actual model. And that looks pretty funky, so let's go there. I think I'm going to make all of the columns those materials there. And as you can see, it's as simple as click. It's like using a formatter, right? Or match properties in AutoCAD. So I've got my columns done and dusted. Maybe let's just do to the edges of the roofing. So we're gonna make it look a little bit funky. All right. So yeah, we've got that. Let's see what we can assign next. So let's go back to the material samples. Let's go to the roof, and let's select maybe a Spanish tile. I think that looks all right. So you can see it's assigning it per face. So we've got that, and here we are. Roof done. We've just got the walls to do, and the roof, and actually the windows and the doors. So let's go and hit the walls. So let's use maybe a color like that, something a little bit rustic. All right, I think that looks okay. Right, actually, let's change it. I don't like how it looks. Let's try something different. So you can see if you choose the wrong material, you can always change it. I'm gonna stick with probably this one. This looks a bit lighter, a little bit neater. And as you can see, all I'm doing is moving and clicking on where I want it to be. So let's go a bit down here, hit the last wall, and the walls are done. Okay, so doors and windows, you are next. So let's go to the material tab here quickly. Let's look for wood. Here we go. Let's see, what can we pick here? Let's give it a scroll. So you can see there's a lot of different textures here. All right, I think I'm gonna go with that one. Yeah, that looks okay. Let's go and hover here. Again, I am trusting that you guys are way more creative and much more color orientated than I am. So you would make your stuff look way better. But this is just to give you a bit of an example. And I'm gonna add like a glass finish on the areas where I've got the windows. Now, how cool is that? Right? We're making it look pretty decent, okay? It's not just a shell. And I think that looks good to me. Right? If I wanted, I could always edit this material. So for example, I don't want to see the inside of the building, I can turn off certain parameters. So for example, the transparency, I can either set it to 0, and you can see in the back, it actually updated. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And now we have our final model that we're going to be bringing into Infraworks as the guardhouse. Pretty cool, pretty effective, pretty simple. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, we're going to export this. Again, everything integrates with BIM 360 now, which is amazing. And we're going to do an FBX. FBX files can be a tad heavy depending on what you're exporting, but they work pretty good. I'm going to export that. Okay, all objects, export, and I'm just going to save it as guardhouse FBX. And here we are, done and dusted. So that was a quick fly through to Formit. Now let's jump into the main part, which is going to be the civil model. I think you're going to be quite impressed. All right. So let me hear you. If you're typing into the chat box, I will get into your comments at the end of the webinar. So let's look at bringing your civil model into Infraworks. Now we use the word conceptual purposefully because remember, Infraworks is a conceptual tool, but just because it's so intelligent, we can actually bring in our detailed final design from civils into here and render or visualize it to that detailed level. But just bear in mind, it is a conceptual design tool, so don't expect the same type of accuracy and type of that, or the functionalities that Civil 3D has in Infraworks, but it's pretty damn awesome. So I thought I'll show you this. So this is all from Civil 3D. I've got the parking areas in, that's what you're seeing right there. I've got the intersections in here. And how do you know that it is in from Civil 3D? If I had to select a road or a corridor here, can you see all the baseline information comes through? The horizontal, the vertical baseline, the name, the corridor, that is all Civil 3D properties and you cannot edit it, meaning that that has to only be edited in Civil 3D. Now, while doing this, you might experience certain issues. So I've left them in this webinar to actually give you a heads up. So if you're doing things like this and you see like there's gaps in your corridors, the intersection looks broken, let's go to the other one. This one, there's no real gaps, but the tie-in point is wrong. It all comes down to your targeting and corridor frequency in Civil 3D. So if you do hit this or you do see this in Infraworks, please go and fix those and come back. You could always reload them. In terms of the colors, you could also pre-configure them in Civil 3D, but not many people know that. But if you bring it in here, you could actually change it. So for example, the roads are a lighter gray. I want them to match the dark asphalt that I have for the parking areas, right? So we're going to use a run rule soon. So first we're going to select the surface. So I've got the asphalt selected. Move this up a bit. Here we go. Hit OK and run rules. Now, remember, this will take a little time depending on the size of your model. So small model is probably instant, but a bigger model, it's a few minutes. Took me a few minutes here, and you can see the roads have updated to the surface finish that I wanted, and it looks really, really, really good. Okay, and we're gonna jump into the parking stripes for this area here of the parking. Okay, so let's get into the striping. Like the striping always gets people excited because it looks amazing. I'm going to show you how we did it. But you're going to see what my civil model looked like. It took a lot of work, right? So here we are. This is my civil model, all my intersections done, corridors done, feature lines done for the parking areas, and the striping that was done with vehicle tracking. Now, previously, we exploded this in our previous webinars. So if I hover over it, you can see they are all single elements. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import that small section there, okay? Just that along that edge there to show you how this works. So we've got the disable base and we've got our white striping. So white striping as well as yellow striping. So let's bring that in. So remember, we used the map export function to export it to a shape file previously in the series. We're going to bring those in. So I'm going to go to my shape folder, and I've got it as P1, so parking area 1, white striping, and we're going to import that in. Now, when we import it in, we need to configure it as with most of the tools that come into Infraworks. And remember, this was exported from Civil 3D. So we're going to assign it a coverage, and we're going to geolocate it so it sits in the correct position. So it's our South African coordinate system, 100% correct. We're going to go to the table, and we're going to assign a buffer. Now you have to assign a buffer, so it assigns a thickness to the line on either end. All right, and that's what I've done there. Now, once you've imported it in, you might not be able to see it, but you can see it, it's there, but it's not visual. It's still like matching the asphalt. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign our color to it. So once I select the feature, I can then go to manual style, and I'm going to select the color white. And once I do that, I'll just click somewhere else in the screen so that it will reload. And here we go. White striping in, looks pretty neat, looks pretty good. Let's bring in the yellow striping, all right? So again, same thing. I'm going to bring in the yellow striping for the disabled bay and islands. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to configure it as we've done with the white stripes. Okay, we go to coverage. We got the geolocation on. We're going to just put in the buffer on either side. So I used 75 mils. Okay, you can use different depending on what you need. And again, it came in. There it is, but we can't see it. I am going to assign it a color. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to my manual style, and I'm going to set it to yellow. So you can use a rule style, which will bring it in automatically, but I thought that most users, if you're doing this for the first time, this is the mistake, or not mistake rather, but the thing that you're going to run into. And look at that, looks pretty good, right? So imagine this is actually detailed visualization in a conceptual design tool. Blows my mind, right? So we've got the parking area done for that. So I've repeated all of the same steps that I've showed you throughout this entire webinar, okay? I've created the corridors in Civil 3D, I've did the targeting, I've did the long sections, I've did the assemblies correctly, because the assemblies, if you're doing a complicated road, like with a median and stuff like that, you need to go and probably fix that first and then model in Civil 3D because it doesn't translate that well from Infraworks. To create the final surfaces, like the whole process that you would normally do in your Civil 3D course or as a civil professional. I followed all of those. I brought all of them together, and I've also added elements that I've showed you in previous webinars of inserting trees, cars, people, those type of things. So enough of suspense. Let's have a look at how it looks here. This is the final model. Okay, we've got our bridge linking in here quite nicely. All right, I cropped the model, of course, because we were just dealing with this area, but if you wanted to see the entire dam, you could have actually done that. So here's our bridge, pretty good, pretty neat, ties in perfectly with the end there. And then what I've done is I created bookmarks. So bookmarks are really cool, right? They jump to certain areas that you would like. So I created one for the entrance. Here we go. As you can see, our guardhouse was inserted in there simply by attaching it as usual. All right. We've got light posts, we've got shadow effects, we've got render materials, and look how cool the intersection looks. This is from Detailed Design, and it looks really well. If I click there, you can see it is actually from Civil 3D, the parking areas and so on. All right, so all of the corridors came in pretty good, right? But the key to this is you need to not rush it in Civil 3D. If you do, you're going to run into a lot of back and forth between Infraworks and Civil 3D. So get your civil design right in Civil 3D, and then Infraworks becomes quite easy. Let's go have a look at the curbing. As you can see, the curb is beautifully defined here with the island. It's sitting in perfectly with the medians, with the grass, all of those things. Let's jump into, I've dropped in some cars. So here we are. I love coffee, so put in a coffee shop for the office park, right? So everyone can go and chill in a bit. If you had below ground features, you could have seen it there. I did not add them in this model because of time constraints, right? So let's see. That is the overview of the coffee shop. As you can see here, looks pretty good. The islands, the textures are really good. I mean, and of course, if you had to take this 3ds Max and you can actually render it to much greater quality, but I left it here. And I dropped in something quite cool as well. Let's see, I did show you the cars, the curving intersection. Let's go to the lion. I put a lion in our office park. Okay, so that is actually a photo stitch model from Recap Pro using Recap Photo. And I put it in the center of our roundabout, which looks amazing. All right, so we've got a really cool entrance. So when people come in, they see the lion there. You can see all of the corridor regions are in here. And yeah, I thought it would be like a unique touch to put in to a webinar or into a model rather. So that is our lion. You can call him Mufasa or Simba, whichever one you choose. But yeah, that is the final model and how it looks. I could have added in a lot of other road markings and stuff, but it's repetitive and I'm sure you get the gist of it. Okay, so this was another big thing that people were really looking forward to, was animating cars along a road in Infraworks. I did do this quite fast because I didn't want the webinar time to go or boil over, right? So I'm going to talk through this. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me, but my contact details will be at the end of the webinar. But yeah, do stay at the end. You're going to get a nice surprise from the VR. So here we are. This bridge, I took the alignment in Civil 3D, right? So I just isolated that. So we're going to use that as an example. So I've got it in here. So let me just open it quickly. You can see it was done this morning. That date was literally done this morning because it's been a crazy, crazy time. All right. So here we are. Let's look. So this is the alignment of the bridge or the road that runs along the bridge. Okay. If I select it, you can see the alignment features pop up on the top, the ribbon updates. So it is an alignment, and that's all we need. We don't need any surfaces or anything like that. So what we'll do, we'll go to the output tab and we'll use export to 3ds Max. I've had a lot of users saying they didn't even know that that button was there, but it is there. I've got the stuff that I want selected to export, and then we export it. Right. So once that has been exported, I'm going to fire up 3ds Max. Okay, I'm going to just maximize this viewport. We're going to start the civil view. So there's a civil view function for us civil infrastructure professionals that we can use, which is quite nice. Okay, and what we'll do is we're going to go and import that file that we've exported from Civil 3D. So I'm going to hit open. I'm going to go to my desktop. I've called it Road Along Bridge. Can't be more definitive than that, right? All right, so we're going to bring in just that alignment. I don't need anything else. That is a very important coordinate. We're going to come back to that at the end. And this is the alignment. Might look a bit weird, but it's actually correct. So let's just orbit it a bit. That looks a bit better. And we're now going to use something called an object placement style editor. It's a long name. And we're going to use the feature line as the parent shape, or the road alignment rather, as the feature, as the shape. And we're going to add in a duration. So I know that from the median to the center of my road, I need an offset of 3.5 meters. You should know this by the design of the road. I'm going to use about 5 vehicles here, and I'm going to go at a speed of 60 kilometers. And so we can either use, random, we can use multiple, we can use different cars, but I thought it would be cool to do like an Italian job type of vibe. So I'm going to go with all Mini Coopers. All right. Again, if you wanted to use a random car, you can. So we're going to say yes. We're going to apply this to our road, and as you can see, it's actually generating the OPS at the bottom. All right, so it'll just take a few seconds. Here we go. All right, so what actually did happen? As you can see, it has placed in the cars. We can adjust the position of the cars, the colors of the cars. I'm not going to really get into those type of things because they're quite easy. It might look like it's going upside down, but it's because of your XYZ from your road that it probably looks like that from this perspective view. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that line to create against traffic. So upcoming or approaching traffic rather. So I'm going to just add in the negative, and I'm going to actually rotate it to 180 degrees so it's going in the correct direction. And I'm also going to add a negative sign to the speed just to give it to govern the direction. All right. And I'm going to stick with the same cars. Again, we're going full Italian job vibe here, and we're going to hit apply. All right. So once we hit apply, it'll again, the OPS will start processing at the bottom. So let's just give it a few seconds. Here we go. And if we look now, we've got cars in the upcoming direction, right? So we've got oncoming. So it doesn't just look as one way, it'll look much more better. All right. You can see our Mini Coopers look good. Again, you can tweak certain things, positioning, colors. I'm just going to leave the random colors and positioning of what the software has suggested. You can tweak them at the bar at the bottom. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the rendering, and we're going to go then to the scene converter. Now, this is a very important step where you would need to convert the scene first. Before, we needed to run a script, but thankfully we don't have to do that anymore with the latest 2021 versions. So we converted that. And then all we're going to do is we're going to export it to an collada file. Right, so let's just type in, give it a name, cars along bridge. Okay, so once you do that, actually I saw it was actually set to FBX still, so let's just cancel that. Let's just go there again, export. Right, we're gonna make sure, yeah, it was there, quick one there. Make sure it's selected to the collada file, the DAE, and we're gonna give it a name. So I'm going to just drop it on my desktop as usual, and then I'm going to say cars along bridge, right? And we're going to hit save. Right, important thing here is to make sure that the animation box is ticked as well as bake animation. And once we do that, it will export. It might take a few seconds, depending on the size of your animation, it might take longer. Okay, so I'm doing just the road strip because it will look a bit weird in the office park, because then you have to do a lot of different timings for it. We just did one timing to get the message across here. So I'm happy with it, and it has exported successfully. So let's jump back to our bridge. So here we are. I'm in Infraworks. I'm going to import it as a 3D model because Collada is a 3D file. Here's our cars along bridge DAE file. And of course, now we need to configure it. So we're going to go to the config tab. Of course, geolocation also, as well as city furniture is going to be selected as a category. And we're going to go here. Now, those coordinates that I highlighted previously, when you import stuff to 3ds Max, it multiplies it by -1. So we need to offset that back. So if we go to the Civil Explorer and we go to the scene settings, you can see I've got the X as minus and the Y as positive. I need to type in those values into Infraworks, but I have to bring them back to its original state. So the X will be rather positive in Infraworks and Y negative. So let's jump in here. So X, again, it's going to be positive. So let's just type in this figure very quickly. Right, Y, let me see what I've got here. Right. Okay, so we're going to type that in. Right. So sometimes you can preview it here dependingly. What I do normally is invert the transparency. All right. Okay. So let's just zoom out here a little bit. So what mistake did we do here? We didn't insert a negative into the actual Y value, right? So I've done that intentionally because if you do import it and you don't see anything happening on your road, you need to go and check that. So let's bring that up, pop in a negative in the Y value like we've done right there, close and refresh, and here they are. Pretty cool, right? Okay, there's our Italian job going here. And we've got our Coopers running along our stretch of road. Okay, you can see there's the oncoming traffic or movement, and we've got multiple cars in each direction. Okay, so let me just try and move it. I hope it's moving smoothly on your end because of the streaming. If it looks staggered on your side, it's probably because of the stream. But the cars normally move smoothly along the road surface or alignment that you've got. You can see that my offsets were correct. So the minis or the cars are actually moving in the right place on the right section. They're not in the median. And that is the animation that you can bring in from 3ds Max to Infraworks. Okay, now we're approaching the home run of our webinar. It's a slightly longer one. I'm sorry, but it's really, I had to condense it as much as I can in order to get the message across, and we're going to go to the stereo panorama. So I hope you have your phones close by so we can actually have a look. So what we did was I decided that I'm not going to export the entire model because a panoramic VR or stereo panorama, getting tongue-tied in 2021 here, it's going to be as per the location that you're standing. So what we'll do is we're going to just take this portion of the model. All right. I was thinking of using the lion, but in terms of seeing like the majority of the model, this part is quite good. From the lion, you will actually just see the roads leading to either part of the office park. So we can crop it like we're doing here in Infraworks, and we're going to export it as an FBX file. Okay, so this did take a few minutes because I had a lot of data in this one. Not as long as you think. I think probably about 10 minutes or so. If I did the full model, I would say it probably would have taken me half hour, which is still not bad at all either way. And we hit export and it will do the export. Right. So once the export is complete, we're going to switch over to Navisworks and we're going to import or append that FBX file. So we're going to go here. I've got mine saved under Navisworks, right? Here we go. So we're going to go Navisworks, open. I had a lot of files, so it was quite, I had to make folders. Nice. It's nice to be structured when you're designing. And once we are importing, all right, that's the avatar. I'm going to switch that off. And this is the model, the cropped area, right? So you can see it retains the material intelligence from Infraworks, all right? And of course, when you render it, depending on the quality that you're going after, it's going to look much better than this as well. But this looks pretty good as well. So depending on what you're trying to achieve or what you want to do, it's up to you. It's your perspective there. So as you can see, the model has come in. If I click on anything, those assets actually highlight in Navisworks. The trees, the lights, the islands, the medians, the road finishes, the coffee shop, the cars, everything came in. So what we'll do is, if I'm happy with this viewpoint, I'm going to say render in cloud. Okay, and this menu bar here will pop up. So I'm going to use the current view. If you had pre-configured views in Navisworks, you could actually navigate to them. I'm going to do stereo panorama, and you can see the standard is actually 0 credits. If you're going to final, where you really want to beef it up, that's also depending on your resolution. So if I go to 2046, you will see that now it will actually ask for more credits. But if you're going for something to really blow someone's mind or to get that project signed off or awarded, this is the way to go, right? So this is use Autodesk Cloud Credits. You should know this, especially if you use Autodesk Recap Photo and stuff like that. And I'm going to check, email me when you're done. And this is going to be exporting to the render in the cloud. So we'll give it a few seconds and it's going to be uploaded. Once it has been uploaded, we should be good to go. We'll get a pop-up on the top saying that it's going to be busy rendering. There we go. Rendering is being rendered online, and that is it. Right. So you can actually use that. You can also use the look around function. If you're not sure of the viewpoint and you want to select another one, you could actually set that up here and you can actually go along whichever section of the model you would like to use. But in this case, I just stuck with this. You can see it's very sensitive. So if you're using a mouse, you can actually feel like you're floating. All right, so we're done with Navisworks. And this is where I got my email. So this was very late last night, believe it or not. I had this to render. It's been a crazy week. You can see it's almost midnight last night. So we've got that done and dusted, and we can sign in. Now, once you sign in, it's going to take you to your Autodesk render gallery. There we go. That was the one I did at Autodesk University last year. And this is the second one. So let's go here. And this is the result. Okay, as you pan around or orbit, it's very floaty-like because it is sensitive. It's meant for putting into a VR headset. So if you do have one, I hope it's near to you right now, or if you want, you can go find it very quickly. If you don't have one, you could still use your phone. So don't stress on that part of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this. So we can actually share this, right? So I'm going to use a QR code for the phone. And this is the QR code. So you can actually scan this and view my model. So I've taken a still image of this and I've put it on my next slide. And I'm going to leave it up for about 10 seconds or so. All right, so here's your chance. This is the model that has been rendered. That is the QR code. So if you have your phone, please give it a shot now. I'm going to leave it on there, like I said, for about 10 seconds or so. Scan it, take a photo, use your QR code. It requires no software. You could actually it's going to open up your browser. So you don't need any software for this. All you got to do is scan the QR code on your phone and let me know. Let me know in the comments or in the chat to say, hey, it worked or it was great, whatever your opinion was of it. And yeah, I thought it will throw some fun in there. So let me leave it for like about another 5 seconds. I'm sure you guys probably got it in right now. All right, so I am going to switch screens. Okay, so I hope you got it on your phone right now. If you didn't, this is how it's going to look. So this is recorded off my Samsung. Here we are. I'm going to scan the QR code. You can see it opens Google, right? Or whichever browser you're using. I'm going to switch to full screen. And this was how it looks. So as I move my phone to the right, you can see it actually panned in there. So if you had your phone into a VR headset, if you looked right, it would move right. If you looked left, if you looked down, as you see in there, pretty cool, right? We are in digital transformation and we should actually make use of it. We can actually zoom to certain elements like you can see here. If I increase the render quality, those would be much more sharper, but I thought I'll just use the free one as a preview. So yeah, this is the VR from this model I created. And everything you've seen in this series was created from zero. And it was all created for using the South African coordinate system, everything from scratch. I had created everything from the roads to the curbs, and everything from out of the box features in all of the software that you've seen so far. And that brings us to the end of this remarkable series, right? So I thought I'll show you this. Let's look at where we had started. Okay, this is where we had started. Just want you to visualize and sync that in for a few seconds. Okay, this was done in Infraworks. That was the plot or the area of land that we needed to develop in Hartbeespoort in South Africa. And this is where we ended. We dropped in a bridge. We added roads, landscape architecture. We brought in the guardhouse from Formit. If you missed it, there's it there. Right, we put in lighting. And I mean, just look at it. We've got our grading. This is assigned materials. This is very detailed. I mean, that is river sand rock. So you can actually see the grooves on it. So the level of detail is absolutely amazing. And this is just in Infraworks. Imagine if you take it to 3ds Max. I mean, look at that. We've got the roundabouts in, we've got the verges in, the trees. The intersections looked crisp and neat. The line work, the cars. I could have added more cars, but I said, hey, it is COVID time, so not many people are going to go to the office. So just wink, wink on that part of things. The curbing, like I said, fits in perfectly. And then, of course, we've got our lion just sitting in the center of our roundabout there. And then, of course, we added some elements like coffee shop. I could have added people, but social distancing, guys. So I just kept it quite vacant. And this is the pyramid of software that we've actually touched on. That's quite a lot. In the one webinar series, that is quite a lot. And a lot of people try and do it in one webinar, and they give you like 5-minute bits and pieces of it. I didn't find that quite useful, so I thought, hey, spread it out a bit and give people a better understanding of this BIM intelligent software. So Infraworks, Civil 3D, Revit, Inventor, AutoCAD, Navisworks, Vehicle Tracking, Map 3D, Advanced Steel, Autodesk Rendering, Recap Pro, 3ds Max, AutoCAD Plant 3D, and Formit. That is a huge stack that we have covered here. So congratulations, everyone. It's great to see a lot of you actually attended from episode 1, if I could call it that. And what better a way to start the year off as by ticking in or ticking off something that you have completed, right? We all had New Year's resolutions. You can add a tick there to say, hey, I completed the civil infrastructure series, the civil collaboration webinar series, and that's the first tick if you haven't had any already. So if you want to reach out to us, we're going to have a Q&A just now, but this is all of our handles. So we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just type in Baker Baines. The YouTube channel is a critical one that has all of our webinars on it. And of course, if you want to connect with me remotely, of course, this year, you can always get in contact with me. I am Shoaib Yunus. I'm the BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure and mining, a civil consultant as well. And that is my email. If you don't have me on LinkedIn already, please hit me up. I post all of my content on there. And if you have any suggestions, feedback, criticism, positive, negative, doesn't matter what it is. I think any professional in the civil infrastructure game is quite thick-skinned. So, but it's always good to hear from professionals out there, consultants out there, to see what you think of our content and whether we are on par with it. Right? So anything civil infrastructure design, I'm your guy. If you're talking products, that's more or less it. But as you've seen from what we've covered in the segments of this webinar, there's quite a bit more, but those are the core ones. Secondary is more vertical. It's not my specialization rather, but I do know how to use it. And then of course, laser scanning and using cloud extraction technologies. I've highlighted those in Autodesk University last year. And last but not least, all our webinars, irrespective of civil infrastructure, architecture, mechanical, process plant, all of them are uploaded to our Baker Baines YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe, like, check it out. A lot of cool content like this on there. And if you've missed any previous webinars of mine, especially in this series, they are all there for you to go and recap. And you can always bounce back to this one to see or check out certain things. Right. So now I'm going to open up the Q&A. So it'll be great to hear from you guys what you thought of the series, maybe what you want to see this year, give me some ideas. That will be great. What you thought of today's webinars. If you have any comments, any questions, or anything that was a bit gray, please, now's your time to fire away in the chat box. So I will give it a few minutes and we will take it from there. Okay, so we have one here, a very impressive model. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. How long did it take you to actually complete it? Ooh, that is a tight question. I was really stretched for time, especially in terms of this past few weeks. The actual animation for 3ds Max, believe it or not, was done like 15 minutes before this webinar. So the civil model was, I would say, I didn't like the time frame because of other things happening, which happens to all of us. I did it just over a week, right? So I completed all the civil and the Infraworks stuff within a week. The bulk of the work was of course, in Civil 3D. And yeah, like I said, if you get the civil part right in Civil 3D, you focus and you get the basics right. You get your targeting frequencies, offsets, all of those things correct. It makes life in Infraworks much more easier. So it took me about that. The 3ds Max, I did it about in half an hour, maybe less. And yeah, the Formit one, you saw it as it is there. So again, types of things like this is normally not done by one person. I did the entire model, but you do need a substantial amount of time, especially if you're new to the software and you need to get your bearings around it. You're definitely not going to do it within a week or 10 days or so. But if you are quite clued up with how things work, the boom workflows and stuff, you probably can, but you really need to lock in. Okay, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, here there's one here about the 3ds Max. I was not aware of the civil view. Is it a recent functionality? Not really. Civil view has been there quite a while. It's been used. I've seen it from videos ranging back from like 2017. If you wanted to see the animation part of it done, a brilliant video was done by Todd Rogers. However, that was using a script, and now we don't really need to use a script. So how you've seen me do it now in this webinar, I mean, that's exactly how you're going to be probably doing it. Of course, there's more tweaking that you can be. As you can see, our time is really over an hour here at the moment, so that's why I had to really condense it. But you can change the position of the cars, the colors of the cars. If you use random cars, it'll have different car models in there, so you wouldn't have only Mini Coopers or Italian jobs here. You'll have a range of cars that will actually help you with. But yeah, this maybe we'll see as the course of the year goes. Depending on requests from users, we might actually do a much slower one, but we'll have a look at it. There's another one here, drainage elements. If we had to bring in piping, would we be able to actually visualize that? Yes, like I've shown you in Infraworks in my model, you could actually toggle below ground and see what's going on there. So if I had to do a stormwater network or sewer retic or something like that, definitely it's going to be in there. And if you wanted to create a render of your underground in Navisworks, you could actually do that by simply creating a viewpoint at that location below ground, so everyone can actually see what's going on below that. So yeah, taking life underground seriously, yeah. Right, so definitely your services, those type of things, you can definitely bring it in. Okay. Ah, there's one here. I thought I'm gonna get something like this regarding the parking striping. Could you export all of those into one file? Yes, that's what I had done for the entire site. When I demonstrated it on here, I did it for a small section so that it'll be quicker and also make more sense to the users. However, if there are different colors and different configurations in terms of whether it's a polygon, whether it's a line, whether it's a filled object, whether it's a striped or hatched object, you need to actually create separate ones for those because those are different. So in this case, I created two big ones. I created one with all the white striping and I created one with all the yellow striping. And I imported that as it is. And that was it. I used the same process to bring in the parking lots. That's why they came in so nicely there, where you could see the curb, you could see the shaping very well. So that's how you would do it. Okay, there's one here regarding the terrain. Did you bring in all the surfaces from Civil 3D? Yes, you can. So what I did was I combined the surface and exported it as one, and I imported it in because that is what you do in Civil 3D. You create a combined surface. Okay, that is best practice and it works. You'll get the realistic end result of your surface. But if you, when you are attaching the Civil 3D to Infraworks, and once it loads, it will give you an option to tick which elements you want to bring in. So if you had all of your top surfaces, your datum surfaces, those type of things, all of those will present itself to you, and you can actually tick it off or tick it on if you want to bring it in. Right? Generally, we don't bring in the datum surface to a visualization model. You're interested into the top surface. So that's what you would do. But good question. That's a very good question. Okay, I do not see any other questions. I've kept you quite a bit over time, but thank you so much for making this series more enjoyable and fun and keeping me going as well. I mean, I always learn more and more as I'm going on a webinar. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, and then it forces us, even though we are specialists in our field, to actually go back to first principles. So this webinar definitely did that to me, but it's all big thanks to you. Again, if you want to connect with me, those are my details. Hit me up if you've got a topic that you would like me to cover, if there's anything cool, or any nice words. I mean, we really like to see that our content's hitting our users and they're really appreciating it and using it. That is the main thing. If it's not useful to you, then it's no use for me to do it. So if you have any suggestions, topics, ideas, hit me up, let us know. Again, if you know a buddy that has missed this webinar today, I will post the recording link on LinkedIn. You can tag them in the comments and you can also send them to our YouTube channel. So thank you very much. I hope 2021 goes well for all of us. It's still a bit weird. Stay safe, stay positive, keep working at it, and have an awesome Friday further. So take care and ciao.